hero.
Have you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Welcome back, everybody, to another amazing edition of Around the UFL. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we got a big one for you. And we got the all-star panel back together, other than Jake. It's our 6-year anniversary week as well, so you know we're getting live. We know we're getting pumped. We're talking about free agency, but we also got a big guest for episode 2. Who would have thunk it? Already, episode 2 episodes in. Hey, Arlington. Okay, Mel, you know what? You want to do the intro? I think you should do it. Who's joining the show?
So we're really excited to have someone who's really active in the community with our Discord and some of the guys we have. TJ Barnes, playing for the Defenders. We're really excited to have him on and talk some ball and some free agency and what's going on with the league.
See, you guys don't need me. You don't need me. You know, I'm only here for the loud equals funny crowd, and I don't know how many of those exist. Because are you, Ducky? What are you part of the loud equals funny crowd?
No, Wayne told me to stop smiling, so now I got.
Oh, okay, yeah. I got you. But you guys, I mean, need no introduction. We're gonna go through the panel again anyway. Mel's joining me to my right. Second show in. Hopefully, did you have a blast last week?
I did. It was a lot of fun.
You hesitated.
It was a little nerve-wracking. And I'm a little embarrassed about Tiny Panther.
You shouldn't be. He is currently in the lead with 50 points.
Well,
I left the door open, so you shouldn't hear him screaming for me. So,
well, maybe we'll get a sneak peek and a guest appearance. We'll have to see. Mr. James Larson, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing great, staying busy. A lot going on in the world of spring football. As always, when is it not?
That's what I like to hear. And Luke Miller looking a little bit more professional. Look at the microphone on this guy. How are things going in, well, I was going to say Birmingham, Alabama. How are things going where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, things are good, you know. Stock's going up. Be able to get the mic.
It's always a good day to be a Stallions fan, so we're giddying up.
That's right. And Mr. Zach, again, no curtains. You beat Ducky to the punch on the sunglasses. How you doing today? It's probably still sun. You probably need the sunglasses in Arizona. That sun stays out for a while. How's that weather treating you out there? Hopefully, actually, it was cold last I checked. Hopefully warmer.
It's actually raining, which is something to put out there. But I'm good. I was playing chicken with the sunglasses with Ducky to see which one of us would be throwing them on. And I said, okay, I'm biting in. So found these. These little babies haven't been used in a few years. Nice closet dwelling pieces I took with me to Arizona. But I am glad to be here because it's another UFL show. Always a great time.
That's right. And it's a big week, which we'll talk about here a little bit more in a second. But before we get to that, my man, Ducky, you got to be feeling pretty good. You are not only a community legend, you are maybe the biggest, if not probably the biggest Defenders fan. Oh, don't give me that look. You know where I was going with this. Don't give me another sticky sauce moment. All right.
I was waiting.
But you got to be feeling pretty good. Week 2. You're already able to come and rep your team with, a member of the team joining on. A little bit of funny backstory. I don't know. Maybe we'll wait for him to join on. But there is a reason TJ is in our Discord, and you may or may not be that reason. So we will touch on that. Before we get into the show, though, this is something, I spared you guys week 1, but now it's week 2, so you have to deal with it. We got a little bit of housekeeping over here. Here's what I need y'all to do. You need to head over to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, maybe even the TikTok. Go find @AroundTheUFL. Go ahead and follow it. Since we're over on YouTube, right now, live, right in front of your faces with our beautiful faces, I need you to do something. Just take your gaze away from our faces for one moment. Look right below the video. Click subscribe. Click the bell. It builds morale. It also lets you know when we're going live because... to the next point, this is a big week for Newsroom. Who would have thunk it? I know I wouldn't have. 6 years ago this Thursday, I can't believe we're going to have 6 years of Newsroom. So I got to go live. Going live Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, same time as this one. If it's a little bit later, get over it. But this is why you need to click the bell. You get the morale, but you'll get the notifications when I'm live. But then Friday, we have episode 75 of the UFL podcast. So, everything's coming together. Everything's coming full circle. I've talked about it before. I know I'll talk about it a whole bunch on Thursday. I don't even know what I'm going to have. I might cry. So if you ever want to see the ref cry, tune into that because it could be a fun one. It could be a sad one. And if I don't show up, then there's going to be no 7-year anniversary. Who knows? Maybe we're going to get that $2.8 million bill in the mail and we're going to get our licensing revoked from the publisher and we won't be able to continue on. That could be us. And nobody can be stopped anymore. That's all I'm saying. But before we talk about the what ifs or the what could be's, I do know that PFN's on top right now, so let's just relish in the moment. We got UFL Free Agency. Last week we were talking draft, not just some little draft, a dispersal draft and a super draft. But that wasn't it. Shortly after, James, I think you probably dropped the first one. You sprinkled a couple through, but then the UFL, they dropped the mother load. Right? They gave us 42 picks, and that wasn't even it because there was even some more that came out after that. There were some that maybe didn't go through. So we're going to talk about the whole bunch. Again, I don't know how we ended up with so many Michiganders and Stallions fans here. So who wants to go and talk? Because I won't be it. I'll leave it to you. Who wants to talk about the big picks? But I know everybody has the same one in mind. Who wants to do it?
Well, there's obviously a lot going on in free agency, but something I do want to point out, like you said, the mother load of 42 signings. I don't think any of us were really expecting 42 to come out of nowhere when it dropped on Friday because a lot of these rosters were close to being full already. And all of a sudden, we saw 42 signings, and look at San Antonio, who picked up a ridiculous amount of players there. They are at 91 on the roster right now, which means that 16 guys are going to have to be cut here before the season, or before training camp starts. So it's going to be really interesting to watch all that unfold. But I'll let anyone else take it away with free agency itself. Just want to point that out. That, yeah, I think it took us all by surprise.
Zach, I could see you thinking about it. I could see it brewing in you.
I mean, I do want to say something because this actually ties back to when me and Luke last talked last week. The Showboats are too over the cap for roster spaces right now, and so I'm sitting here and I'm going, "Hey, who we dropping?" Because boy, I feel it's a little bit of a crowding we got to deal with. You know, I've seen teams in the past we've seen where they'll kind of go a little heavy on one thing, but then they forget to realize you got to manage and not go over that cap for camp. So 2 people are going to have to hit the market once more at some point. But the major 42 signings, the only one that the Showboats got that hit 77, by the way, was Antonio Reed, by the way. But some of the big ones here, John Lovett, great to see him coming back. Matt Amendola, good to see him. Both are now Brahmas, by the way. I really like these signings as well. And also another one that really caught my eye because I'm a Bears fan is Ryan Null, hard-nosed runner, dude from BYU. He's one of those types where you give him the ball and that's his job. He's going to make sure that he's going to plow over at least 1 or 2 guys going through the first level of the defense. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing if he can stick in camp in particular with the Houston Roughnecks. I know it's going to be a little hard. Mark Thompson will take a lot of those carries, but, hey, doesn't hurt to have a second guy who can deliver the punishment in the first level. I just got to give props to my Bears guys on these rosters. And Trey Quinn's back. Now he is truly signed on this time. No mistakes this week.
Yeah, I love that you brought up some of the Roughneck signings there with Ryan Null, because they also picked up Javon Hicks, who I think is a guy that really could make some noise in training camp this year. He had 10 interceptions during his college career at Cincinnati. And that's a guy, we look at Houston and the situation they have there. They had a new general manager come in Lionel Latau, and he's really reworked this secondary, right? They let go of some guys. They moved on from some people here throughout this dispersal process. But throughout the entire offseason, he was signing a lot of new faces, a lot of new guys. Elijah Rogers, for example. Some guys that we haven't really seen before. Jainan Liddell is another example. So we're going to see a different Houston secondary this season, and it'll be interesting to watch a lot of guys who are unproven in spring football before. So we'll see if they can get that chemistry there. But Javon Hicks is the guy that I really think could do some damage this year.
I'm amazed nobody's brought it up. So, Mel's, I'm going to give the floor to you here because you are the resident Panthers fan today, right? So I know you got to be ecstatic. I don't want to be the one to say the name because I don't want to steal your thunder here. And I know some people in the chat, they're going to give me a hard time. They're going to say, oh, you don't let Mel's talk. Here I am, guys. Talk it up. Sign you up.
Well, I feel like I really have to set up what happened. And I feel like, Ref, you as a fellow Lions fan can appreciate how this all went down. We're watching this amazing playoff game that ends in an interception for the Lions. And then it's like 10 minutes later, we get the announcement that the Panthers have re-signed EJ Perry. And it was just like one after another. It was so amazing. But then your question kind of becomes, they're a little quarterback heavy. They had that Epling signing previous. So, what are we going to do there now if they're bringing Perry back? Because Perry only played the 2 games. He played week 10. Which by all accounts, that was a very good game. They pulled something out of nothing, getting them to the playoffs. And they went into overtime against the Maulers for that playoff game, So what are you going to do with your current rostered guys?
If anything, it's a good problem to have, right? If you compare that to early season Panthers. Now, the one good thing about both of the quarterbacks you mentioned, and this is nothing against any quarterbacks that may or may not have played for the Panthers this year, but I have a feeling that both of these quarterbacks might be able to figure out to spike the ball if the coach doesn't tell them when the clock is running out. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that is a problem that you might not have to worry about this year. And that's probably one extra win. Other things involved there. But to me, this is something that, Panthers fans should be happy about. I'm curious because I'm sitting here waiting in the dark as a Roughnecks fan. Rough them up. I know we're going 12-0. I'm just not sure who's going to be our quarterback. Is it going to be superstar Bahar, or is it going to be somebody else? We still have that third spot open. And so we saw the Panthers go in, get EJ Perry, bring him back after, mind you, signing him for what, like an hour or maybe
that
a day?
Was such a wild situation where December 18th, he had signed back, and then literally within 24 hours, the next day, he had signed a practice squad deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So hopefully this time we're not getting, I mean, it has been almost 24 hours since I tweeted that yesterday. So I think it has been tweeted around. It took a lot in me not to tweet that during the Lions game, but I was like, I have to wait until the Lions game is over. I had to wait. So I'm glad that they got the win. 2 dubs for Michigan football fans there yesterday.
Well, I'll tell you, like Mel said, it really was a great moment in the Discord because we were, and you guys know, I went nuts when we won that game. Mel's, I think you went equally nuts. And then it was, 5-10 minutes later, you had brought up saw the tweet, and it's like, boom, all over again. Celebration, Michigan football.
It really was. But then now another kind of adjacent free agent to talk about is Ginda. He hasn't been signed at all by anyone. Mm-hmm. And he was a beast on the Panthers last year. So there's I really want to know, what's going on there, or the Panthers.
Well, with Frank Ginda, right now he's in a position where, futures deals are still being offered to players. So hopefully we see him get one with the Atlanta Falcons. But if he doesn't, I'd say it's a pretty good chance that he comes back to the Panthers.
Luke. I got to know your thoughts. You're a Stallions guy. Everything's bright and sunny for the Stallions. Nothing could be bad for the Stallions. Free agency, still feeling good, feeling bad? Give us your thoughts. We got a couple good picks in the mix, but I mean, is there any that catch your eye?
Well, I mean, it's hard not to feel good when you've got the magician, Zach Potter, working some magic and pulling the strings behind the scenes. And he did it again, right? We had a great free agent haul. He teased us all with his gifts of various college mascots and, slogans and things, but really impressed with some of the people they were able to bring in, some familiar names and some new names. I was really, really excited to see that we signed Mark Gilbert, who I thought was the best defensive back in the USFL last season. He was kind of one of those guys. He went to the NFL, ended up getting cut, so he kind of remained a free agent and sort of had his pick of where he could go. And fortunately for us, he chose to sign with the Stallions. And the secondary was at times a struggle for the Stallions last year. I mean, they didn't play terrible by any means, and especially in the red zone when they were in man coverage, they did well, but they gave up a lot of yards at times. And so the Stallions have kind of cleaned house on the back end on the defense, and they're bringing in some new guys. And, Mark Gilbert is, it's hard to think of a better player you could have brought in to help strengthen your secondary. So I was thrilled about that. We also brought in a couple guys that played at Alabama, so I know they'll be fan favorites, should help, boost the attendance and marketing. Slade Bolden was a huge pickup, I think, for us. He's a wide receiver that has a little bit different skill set than some of the other guys that we've got, and I think he'll fit in really well with the team. Deontay Brown, great offensive lineman. And then we brought in some other guys, that haven't played in the XFL or USFL before. So Larry Roundtree is a running back from Missouri who we brought in, Kevin Austin, Owen Carney, D lineman from Illinois. We also brought in Khalil Davis's twin brother, Carlos Davis. So, there's a few other guys they brought in. I could keep going. But overall, I mean, the Stallions, it's kind of at the point now where obviously if a guy's coming to play for them, he's a guy who can play because they kind of seem to have their pick of who they want, they get, and they only bring in the best. So another good week on top.
So, Ducky, I see in the off season you may or may not have taken a new role, at least based on your Discord username. You had just pointed out in the chat, Cordell Jackson's mom is in the chat. Yeah. Which team is going to have the cojones to put our man Cordell Jackson on a team? And we do have our man TJ Barnes in the ready. So give us a quick answer. We'll bring TJ in, but I gotta know, right? It's got to happen soon.
Hopefully, it's the defenders because I'd like to have him in the backfield, but whichever teams get him, they're going to have a good guy on their team. I think he's not being talked enough about. You know, he was in the IFL. He was rookie defense player of the year. That alone should get him a chance on one of these teams just to try out. But it is what it is.
It is what it is, but hopefully that'll change soon. But like I mentioned, we have our man here, TJ Barnes. So let's bring him into the show here. Look at that. See, I love Streamlab for that alone. I can just click one little button and everything works. How you doing, my man? And this is. I mean, I don't know. Are we gonna have a fight here? Because I know Ducky's in here, and I know we're gonna get into the Discord and all that, but we're good, right? I mean, you can't.
Yeah, we're on the same team.
All right, cool, good. Yeah, I'm just making sure.
Yeah, we're all good.
TJ, appreciate you coming on the show today, man. Want to just open up with a couple questions here of like, you've had a really interesting several months here. You won an XFL championship with the Arlington Renegades. You announced that you're retiring. Fast forward a few months, and you decide you want to come back. For reasons which we will get into, it might have to do with the guy that's to my right here. But, you come back, and all of a sudden, you end up on the DC Defenders. Just, can you take me through this process of what it's been like the last few months and kind of your decision of like, all right, I want to come back and play another year?
Man, that's for me not to be long-winded. I'll try to make this kind of short. So, I went up on top, won a championship. I met The Rock and stuff I wanted to do for like the longest of times and whatnot. And it was like, all right, cool, I'm done. And I'm off. I rode into the sunset, doing fine and stuff. And then my former teammates, best friends, Will and Lamb, they hit me up like, hey, TJ, we got to run him back again. We need you back. So we can go eat, have fun, do everything that we was doing throughout the season and whatnot. And so I was like, nah, I'm fine, because I'm enjoying my wife and kids. And they just kept at it. I'm like, no, I'm good. I got a good job and stuff. I'm doing well for myself. And I started watching football, and that itch came back. And so I was like, you know what? I'll ride with the fellas one more time. It was fun. Despite all the BS and turmoil we had to go throughout the season and stuff, I gained some good relationships. So let's run it back again. I called the GM, told him coming back. They was elated. I called my coach, told him the same thing. He was elated also. And what was that? The first week of January was like the dispersal draft, I believe.
Yes.
That Friday, yeah. And so the coach and my D-line coach and the GM, we had great communication up to that Wednesday before that dispersal draft. And I was like, what's going on here? I'm talking about the GM. I'm texting him. He's leaving me on red. He's not responding back. I'm texting and calling my D-line coach because I noticed there's like a gap in communication between us. And so he's not really giving me fulfilling answers and things of that nature. And so I was like, okay. And so the dispersal draft happens, which is the 5th, I believe. And we picked up some guys and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I made it. And I guess Saturday was something also. You start seeing what teams had picked whoever or what players and stuff. I was like, okay, all right. And so I asked my coach, like, hey, what's going on? What's happening? And he's being like beating around the bush, not really giving me a real answer, telling me I have to go talk to the GM about it. Now, mind you, he had told the 2 other players that, hey, you guys are protected. You guys don't have to worry about anything. Versus telling me like, hey, I can't really say much. The league doesn't want us to say anything. And I was just like, I'm in contact with these guys and stuff.
What are you holding?
Okay. Oh, this is my dragon fruit. I got for Christmas. I'm a big Power Rangers fan. You can see the artwork in the back right there.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I get a call from my GM that Sunday. Him telling me he's gonna I was protected, which is a bummer. Had me feeling like a certain way about myself and stuff. I'm like, damn, I must really suck, or I must be old, or like it must be my age or something. And my wife and kids are sitting right beside me, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. I don't want to bummer their mood or whatever. And so that Monday happens. I see everybody who makes the team or who got protected and stuff. I'm like, a couple of these guys aren't playing, and I was like, you know what? It is what it is. It's whatever. I guess I'll just stay retired or whatnot. And then who DB number 17 for the defenders, he had hit me up and backtracked a little bit. He had hit me up after the championship, after we won and stuff. Was like, hey man, I admire you, great job and stuff. I'm thinking it's all bullshit because we just won or whatever. This is what you say to your opponent or whatnot. And so that December, he had hit me up and saying like, hey, are you going to play again? Are you protecting? I'm like, yeah, that's what Arlington told me they were going to protect me. Obviously not. But so that Monday after this personal draft and stuff, he had hit me up like, hey, what's going on? What you got planned for the season? I was like, well, Arlington didn't protect me. Like, hit me up ASAP. Like, hey, here's our manager Vaughn's number, and I hit him up like ASAP. Like, we really want you. I'm thinking it's bullshit because everything I just recently went through, but I did it anyway. I hit the GM up, and he was like elated, like, hey, you made my day. We finally got like a run stuffer that can come in, plug and play, stop the run. That was one of our biggest weaknesses for the year and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. I'm just taking it with a grain of salt because of what I just went through also. So everything played out there at that week, and I'm secretly hoping like Arlington picks me back up because I'm like, man, I want to go back with my guys and stuff. But as the week went on, I started getting madder and madder. I'm like, man, fuck them. Excuse my language. But
we're a little bit late on that.
my bad. I'm like, yeah, F them. Not the players and stuff because I got hella love for all the guys I won with, Louise, Garrett, Cam, Lamb, Will, all those guys and stuff. But the management F all them. And so the following Monday come, I got kind of nervous, but I text Vaughn like, hey, what's going on? Just checking the temperature, you know. It was like, oh yeah, we about to pick you. Don't worry about that. And I was like, oh yeah, for sure. And then I got the calls with them saying, I got a text from somebody, oh yeah, they picked you. I was like, what? Then I seen the graphic. I'm like, oh, it's go time now. So I could have made it a lot longer, but I want it to be as short as I can because I know that story is kind of long with it.
Yeah, those are some great details, DJ. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Luke, I think you got a couple questions.
Yeah, so you just mentioned, some of those guys in Arlington, and one of the guys that if you've been a fan in this space and followed the space for a while, that you're definitely familiar with is Luis Perez. And, honestly, a big reason that I'm on here right now talking is because of that man, because living in Birmingham in 2019 when the AAF started up and the Iron were there, he was our quarterback. Yeah. And part of the reason that I was just so kind of interested in the league was hearing his story. And obviously he's continued to sort of dominate and have success in different leagues. But I was wondering if you could just talk a little, he seems cool as a cucumber, but I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about what it was like bringing him in last year, the difference he made for the team, obviously going all the way to the championship, and just what it's like to be a teammate with him. And obviously you won't have the opportunity to do that this next year. You'll get to sack him instead of be on the same sideline as him. But I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit more. He's kind of one of those famous guys in this space. So I was wondering what it's like to share the field with him last year.
There's not enough nice things I can say about MVP Perez. Because first I was an opponent against him because I played for the Atlanta team, the Atlanta Legends. And I heard that he was a bowler and he learned how to play quarterback on YouTube and stuff. I'm like, hold on 1 second, let my dog out.
See, that's the thing, I'm so glad somebody brought up the bowling. Sorry. Go on. I was mentioning the bowling is one of my favorite aspects to Luis Perez, and I'll live and die on. If they play a bowling promo when he's about to play, that dude's gonna win. There's no doubt about it.
For sure. But yeah, hearing that he was a bowler and stuff, I'm like, oh, this guy must be terrible. And I'm like, man, this league is not gonna last. It did it, but and so I started watching him because his story was intriguing. I'm like, okay, he can actually play. And so we played him. I played him I think it was like week 3 or 4. I'm talking about I'm hitting him. I'm slamming him late. He's getting up. I'm talking about his demeanor was like cool, like Tom Brady and stuff. And I'm like, man, I cannot get to him. I can't make him crack like I usually can other quarterbacks and stuff. Because you usually hear him like, oh. Or you hear him like yell at the lineman, like get number 93 or whatever, but he just got up and with the next play. And then in XFL 2020, we actually became teammates because of our quarterback. I forget his name. He's a politician now. He couldn't cut it, so we needed somebody else to come in and step in and uh, help lead us and stuff. And he came in cool as a cucumber, and was on the same tempo. And you could see the progression that he made from the AAF to the XFL 2.0. I'm like, okay, we actually got a chance, and we were able to. Matt McGloin, that's who it was. But we were able to fix all the errors and stuff. He came in, like, learning the offense, help bringing the wide receivers in, and just doing all the extra work to help us win. And the same thing transferred over into the XFL 3.0. We had Slaughter and Drew Pitt and stuff, and their beef, and it was just like it was a lot of mess, and you don't want that at the quarterback role. And so Drew got hurt. Kyle Slaughter, he went his way, and we were desperate at quarterback, and they had brought him in. It was like it clicked instantly. He learned the playbook within a day, and it took some time for the team to really galvanize around him, because everybody, bowler, we beat them, we won, not knowing he was out there slinging it against us. I think it was like 21-0 at the beginning of the game before he threw a pick and a fumble and another pick or whatever. And it was like, yeah, he was that close to winning the game, and I came in, did my thing, brought him down to 2-point conversion and stuff. But just to speak about his leadership, he came in and just really just galvanized the guys. Everybody just got back around, and I think the critical point in the season was that L against DC. I'm like, yeah, we won against Orlando, and I think we won another game before that, I believe. But even in that loss against DC, we've seen qualities in him that we didn't see in Slaughter, that we didn't see against Pitt, seeing Pitt and stuff. I'm like, oh, he really believes that we can win this game against the number one team in the league. And so, I mean, it came down to like the second try in overtime, but we didn't get it or whatever, second or third try. But it was like, okay, if we see these guys again, we'll definitely win. So we just got to take care of business against Houston. Didn't happen until the third time. But after we got over that hump, it was like, oh yeah, we definitely win the championship. So, but man, I can't. There's not enough things I can say about Perez, man. He's a great guy. He was one of the first guys to hit me up when he seen that I was protected and stuff. And he was like, man, I love you. I hope the best things for you. Hey, don't lay on me when you play against us and stuff. But yeah, man, he's definitely a great guy. Definitely a great guy.
Yeah. So I mean, speaking to now that you weren't protected and you got picked up by DC. What are some of the goals that you have this season, like especially from like a leadership perspective, where you're going to be a vet in that room there? Right. Do you have any goals specifically there, just things that you want to accomplish this season?
Really, just goals that I set for myself was to repeat, win another championship. I felt like I was robbed of all XFL last year, but that is what it is. I want to actually put myself in the best shape to be the defensive MVP. And beat Allerton 2 times, clean sweep, like and just help us be the best defense that I can, do everything that's in my power to help lead us to another championship. So, but yeah, those are the goals I set for myself after being drafted. I'm like, yep, I wanted to play for a team that played them twice or played them first, and so I got to the team that plays them twice, so I want to clean sweep them. I feel like I was robbed of being all XFL, so I want to be at all XFL all UFL. I'm sorry, all UFL.
It's all good. It's going to take time for us to get used to this.
Right. Yeah. And I want to be the defensive MVP, because I felt like even with the limited time that I was playing with the Arlington Renegades, I felt like I was able to put my stamp on a lot of the games that we played and stuff. So I know that I'll be able to, with the defenders, I'll be able to prove myself a lot more and be able to be on the field a lot more. And me being in better shape than I was last season, I'll be able to be even bigger impact than I was. So I'm very excited.
Zachy boy, what you haven't? I know you're the other interview guy. I'll be honest, and no curtains on this show, so I apologize, TJ. I am by no means an interviewer, so I'm going to pass the torch to Zach, because I ain't doing it.
Well,
It's okay.
I do want to interject that I know Mel's had a question. So
Oh, sorry.
No, TJ, I just wanted to ask, we're sitting here, we're talking about the draft, we're talking about the free agents that are out there. The unfortunate reality with the merger is there's a lot of guys that haven't been picked up and aren't on teams anymore. But all that being said, looking at the current rosters that we have for the teams, who would you be most worried about playing against, like as it stands today?
Nobody. And I only say that not because like we had Orlando last year who sucked or whatever, San Antonio or whatnot, saying those are bad teams. Like I don't fear nobody. I feel like they were able to put the best of the best. But if we're talking about like people that I'm like, oh, I don't want to play these guys. Like, nah. The only one team that I didn't want to play was Seattle last year, and that was because they had Danucci and you could not get to him. And that I said that because like anytime you got close to him, you kept dropping back, looking for like the open receiver and stuff. So it was hell to play against. But that was just like tough schematically. But as far as like a certain old line or whatever, I'm like, nah, bring them all. And it's like I'm gonna beat them all. So it's nobody that I fear. I hope whoever they hear it and they make it as bulletin material. Or TJ Barnes said this, so we're gonna double team him or do whatever. I'm like, bring it. Whatever you gotta do to motivate yourself or whatnot. That's cool. That's cool. And that's cool. But if you watch the tape, you're gonna see that's a bad MFer that I don't want to mess with and stuff. And when you see the film for this year, I'm gonna put fear in a lot of people's hearts. So especially that team down in Arlington. So
Actually, I take it back. I do have a question. So you're new to the DC Defenders, and I gotta know what are you most excited to see? The beer snake or the lemons? Now, I assume it's the beer snake. I don't think any of the players want to see the lemons.
I'll be honest. I think his answer is going to be he's most excited to see Ducky.
if Ducky comes to a game, that's number one. If not, then I would say the beer snake because I've seen it in 2020, and I was like, damn, they got this long ass concoction of beer or whatever. I'm like, well, germs, whatnot. Then you see they brought it back again. And I was like, and the crowd was rocking and they were throwing lemons and stuff. I was like, is this legal or whatever? But I'm just excited to be on the other side and be able to be partaking like the beer snake and all the festivities and stuff. So
yeah, I think DC has arguably one of the top crowd fan bases.
Not arguable.
Is for the live events. I mean,
them and St. Louis is like neck and neck because I played St. Louis twice, once in 2020 and once in last year, and it was like the whole stadium was rocking, especially like they had brought Joe P. He ran a kickback, and up to that point the game was like neck and neck a little bit, but he scored that 105-yard kickoff return. It was like you couldn't hear nothing at all. So.
Well, TJ, hey, we appreciate you coming on with us here as we wrap up this segment of the show. I know Luke, you had one final question for him.
Yeah, TJ, I got one final question. It's kind of non-football related, but you're from the great state of Alabama, graduated from Enterprise High School, and most people, I'm actually going to go out on a limb here and say probably 99.9% of people don't know about the Boll Weevil Monument in Alabama, in Enterprise, Alabama. As far as I know, it's the only statue dedicated to a pest in the world.
Yes.
So I was wondering if you could just shed some enlightenment on the people about the great city of Enterprise and the Boll Weevil Monument.
Man, the great city of Enterprise is probably like one of the most slow towns I've ever been a part of because I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama. My pops people is from like Lower Alabama. Then I spent some time in Daytona Beach. And then after like my grandmother passed, we had moved back up to Enterprise, Alabama. And you can just tell like the culture differences from being in a more bayside, beachy area in Daytona Beach versus being like the country where you only got a couple stoplights. The place you hang out is Walmart or like the parking lot of a Chick-fil-A or whatever. And you have one high school and that's it. And so everybody knows each other versus being in Daytona Beach where everybody's spread out. You have all different type of cultures and stuff. And so But yeah, Bo Weevil Monument is something important to the city. I forget exactly exactly what was the importance of it. I know a lot. My dad would be like yelling at him if he heard this interview or whatever. But I know it's like the
I can
monument
help
is
you
right in the
out.
middle of the city. Go ahead.
Well, so if I remember correctly, I think the story is boll weevils came through and ate up all
hmm
the cotton, and
Yeah,
that
that's
was what
right.
the whole economy was. And then after
hmm
that, they diversified and started planting peanuts and doing all these other things, and it actually led to kind of like a economic boom. And they were
Yeah,
so thankful for the boll weevil that they built this big freaking statue in the middle of the city with a
yeah.
lady holding a boll weevil up.
And it's like this,
Yeah,
and so and like every
it's wild.
November, I believe, and every November, I believe, we have like a festival called the Peanut Festival. It's like where like have like all the fairs and all different type of foods and stuff, and it's like a big thing in Enterprise. And so it's something I always look forward to. Like after the high school football games, we go out and have like be out on the town and stuff. So, but yeah, like it's definitely a great city. If you ever had a chance to roll through like Friday Night Lights or through like November where the Peanut Festival is going through, and I would definitely take some time to go.
Luke with the hard hitting questions. I love it. You can always
Hey,
count on him for.
the people need to know about Enterprise. I went there one time,
Mhm.
and TJ's right. You know, there's not many stoplights in the town, but it's one of
Right.
those little off the grid, kind of off the map, small towns that's worth stopping in if you're ever driving through Lower Alabama.
hmm
That's where I get my car rentals from.
Bruh.
Well, we thank you for joining, James. You want to wrap this one? You're much better. See, this is why I don't do the interviews. This is why I don't do it. I'm just trying to keep the show moving. But I'll pass it along to you.
Yeah, well, TJ, hey man, I appreciate you coming on with us today, and we absolutely plan to bring you back. So hopefully, one of these days during the season, you get a win, you eat some lemons, you might throw one at Ducky on the sidelines. Who knows? We'll bring you back on.
Arlington week. That's the week you bring me back on because there's gonna be a lot of content to bring you. Well, after the game.
Yes, sir.
Sounds like a plan, TJ. Appreciate you, man.
All right.
Looking forward to it,
Thank
brother.
you.
Good seeing you. So, okay, a couple things. We got a couple points to give out on this one. Luke, I got to give you a point for that last question because that one was
Thank you.
pretty funny there. There was another point James, I'm going to give you a point for helping me out with that and not being too angry at me because I don't look at the private chat. So right now, just to catch everybody up, I'm at 1 point, Zach's at 1 point, James, Ducky, and Luke are at 2 points, Mel's Jake 1 point. But we got a lot of catching up to do. 50 points with Tiny Panther. And you know what? He knows he's got the big lead. We don't hear him saying much this week. We don't hear him saying too much.
Getting comfortable. It's getting comfortable, man.
Yeah, he's lurking in the background. He's just kind of stalking the situation.
Yeah, I gave him a little talking
chilling.
to. He knows his place now.
Well, speaking of DC and speaking of defensive tackles, there is some news that came out of the DC camp today that definitely something that I want to clarify a little bit here, where Robert Nikomdechi, who they had signed last week or were in the process of signing, has decided to kind of change directions here, and he's headed up north. He's going to go play for the Edmonton Elks. So DC has a really, really stacked defensive line as it is. The former first-round NFL pick, I mean, he was a big-time addition, but now he's a subtraction. He's headed up north, and we'll see what Von Hutchins cooks up there in DC. I already know he's probably got someone lined up, so it'll be interesting, but wanted to clear that up.
The beauty of spring football, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we could go back in time and look at the things that, seemed for sure or were coming through the line. The one that always jumps out to me as far as like funny spring football events, and I feel like I could talk about this now a little bit more freely without getting yelled at, is when the USFL said they were going to announce 8 coaches and then announce 4. And to me, that was just one of those funny spring football moments. And here we are. And this one, I mean, this one's a little bit different because what we're seeing here is the amount of opportunities that are out there for these guys to play because, the CFL has been around for a while, but even with the condensation or the merger of the USFL and the XFL coming in, creating a premier spring football league, we're seeing eight teams without players. And a lot of them are taking shots up in Canada, which is great to see these guys play. And where I think we're going to see a lot of these guys go to and I know this is, even further outside of our scope as the show, but European League of Football, which, mind you, I am going to try to see a game because I'm going to Europe and they have the Paris Musketeers. And so I got to go. I told my wife the name of that team earlier and she laughed. And so now
is that going to be your new mantra moving forward? The number one Paris Musketeer fan on the planet.
I'm the Musketeer.
Shoot him up, I guess. I don't know.
I'm going to get the big sword, the curly sword and the hat with the feather.
Sword that he just
borrow TJ's, yeah.
Yeah,
dude.
TJ's sword.
I thought it was a Power Ranger sword at first. Which I think
it was. That really caught me off guard when just in the middle of his question, just all of a sudden he's just wielding a sword. But hey, it's around the UFL for you.
That is, this show, I'm telling you, it's making itself. We're trying to be a little bit more fun here. The UFL podcast, is different than this show in the regards of, one, we have a huge panel here. But two, I'd like to say that this is going to be our fun show. Informative, but fun. Informative, but a little bit goofy. Case in point, I wouldn't drop the F-bomb on the Friday UFL podcast show, but fuck it. I think it's kind of, not a lot. This show's already riddled with one. To me, it's like, well, I might as well throw another one in because I don't know when I'm going to get another chance. Anybody else?
Listen, our sponsors are already leaving, so I don't know what you're doing right now. The stock is going down.
You son of a bitch.
2 episodes in, but we'll see.
We're this is like late night.
But there's a child
really.
in the chat, so we have to be careful for the child.
Oh yeah, Max is in the chat. We can't.
We have to be careful for the child.
All right, cover yours. Get the no.
Yep.
No. I don't plan to swear on this show, but since there was already one F-bomb, what's another one gonna
We're good
hurt?
at 2, I'd say.
I don't want to cuss.
Sure?
Luke looks like Jesus too much right now, so it's just.
I'm here to keep the moral conscience of this show in place.
Oh my God, good time. So I guess let's speculate a little bit. I know we speculate on the UFL podcast.
DC all the way.
There's a couple things I have for speculation in my head. So I guess I'll leave it up to you guys. We can figure out which one. One, clearly we have the schedules waiting. Kind of get some thoughts on when the schedules are coming, or we could debate over that. Another one, and I think this is maybe a more fun one. So whichever one we don't do here, maybe we'll talk about this Friday if, the schedule doesn't come out by then. But the other one was, do you think we'll see another simulcast? We saw it with the USFL for the first time in sports history since the original Super Bowl. We had 2 major broadcast networks simulcasting a major sports event. Now that we have Fox and ESPN coming together, that could be a fun topic as well. But I'll let you guys, mull it over. What does the chat want to hear too? Maybe I know there's probably a little bit of a delay, but I feel like that could be a fun topic. Or I'll open it up to you. You guys have any topics? I like it. All right, which one do you want?
I was arguing on Twitter.
When aren't you arguing on Twitter? Maybe we talk about that. Who are you arguing on Twitter with?
Something about Taylor Swift. I was arguing with somebody you don't know.
Oh.
What are we talking about Taylor Swift?
Just arguing with people.
About her showing up too much in NFL games?
Yeah, they're just crying about it.
Maybe here's a question. Is Taylor Swift going to make an appearance at a UFL game?
If she did.
I think you might see.
Nope.
I think
we lost Mel's. We lost Mel's. Too much Taylor Swift talk. Mel's
it's
lost
a sign
it.
from God. We are not bringing up Taylor Swift on this show ever again. So take it from Luke.
If she comes to a game, cool. I guess it promotes the league. That's the way I look at it. It's a win.
Taylor Swift's going to be playing in London while I'm there, and I looked up tickets, and I ain't going. They're too expensive.
That's nice. I'm glad you noted that.
Yeah. ELF though, sign me up.
The number one Paris Musketeers fan on the planet.
I need a Paris Musketeers shirt now. Or
I'm sure your wife was like super thrilled when you were like, "Hey, we can go to Europe, and while we're there, we can go to an American football game."
I'm already taking her to professional wrestling while I'm there too. So.
Internal screams.
Bruh.
I don't know if her friends realize all the fun things I'm going to take them to do, because we have her friends coming with us.
You added that in.
Yeah, I think Ron will be into going to see ELF. and who doesn't love professional wrestling? I mean, there's nothing like the gleam of. All right, I'm not going to have another sticky sauce moment. We're going to change subjects.
Well, let's get back to speculation zone here, maybe. Rope it back in a little bit. I'd love to comment on your thing with the simulcast there because obviously, that was a big deal. USFL, their inaugural game there in 2022. Now NBC is no longer involved. So do we see ESPN and Fox do that? Now, something I'd like to know, how awesome has it been to have ESPN, ABC, and Fox all pushing the UFL all at the same time? Like all these commercials we've seen the last couple of weeks here, now that the merger is finally official, we're getting all these awesome commercials through the NFL season or postseason. Man, I'm really messing up my words right now. But I think it's been awesome to see, and hopefully it builds up excitement for the upcoming season.
My money is on that they do not, and the reason I'm going to go with that is the data behind the last simulcast. I know that the combined audience was great, but a lot of people then went into the split data on how it was roughly 1.2 to 1.3 million per channel. If we're talking about that, maybe a little give or take on how the numbers, forgive me for being fuzzy, but I do think that if you were trying to combine both these networks, probably didn't. I would not want to do that again. If I'm being honest with you, I do believe that you want to focus on maybe a primetime game to hype up. Why do you think they're hyping up, for example, the two champions going at each other once more? I think that's what the bread and butter is to get some of the headlines hit on so that you can continue that upward projection and casual engagement of fans that has really, I think, brought more scale into the discussion than has been in recent years. There's some people that I've talked to recently in this community that they manage, like you talk about groups, you talk about pages that all talk about engaging with others. And it sounds like that engagement and membership in a lot of groups across social media has skyrocketed more so than anything since 2020's XFL, which is a good sign because that was the most hyped up version of football we have had in the last 5 years. I say stick with that formula. Get one big game. 2 champs, 1 game. Who's the ultimate? And I think you're going to stick with that. Simulcasts are great. I love simulcasts. I work in TV. You guys know this. But I do believe that they instead are going to shift away from it. That is my hypothesis.
I could see at minimum throughout the season or maybe the beginning game, simulcast on ESPN and ABC. I know they do that with some of the NFL games. I think they even did that with the XFL to kick off the season last year, I believe. I don't know. I could be wrong. So that could be an interesting twist. I like it because I like grandiose and like big things like, look at this thing we're going to do. But to your point, Zach, if it's going to net them a larger number on one network over 2 rather than splitting them out, I imagine it gets a little dicey with advertisers doing it over 2 networks, things like that. Mel's or Luke, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this topic here.
Go ahead, Mels, if you have any thoughts.
She might be frozen. We might have actually lost her.
I think Tiny Panther maybe took her out. But I think simulcast. I mean, I agree with what everybody else was saying. I think it's a neat idea. I think it was cool when the USFL did it, but I think there's enough in place now that these leagues have been around for a couple of years. I don't think that they need to do something, as unique to maybe try and get people's attention. So, you can't rule it out, but I think the odds are probably pretty slim. I think instead they're just going to pour their energy into kind of promoting the games, marketing them the ways that we've seen. And, ABC will probably have a big game. Fox will probably have a big game that weekend. And they'll sort of, divvy up the cake, so to speak, and then promote those games across their different platforms.
To me, your benchmark you want to break is that 3.3 million opener that was in the 2020 season for the XFL. It wasn't impossible, I would say, to get there again. Look, the simulcast hit 2.9. I did redouble check this. It hit roughly 3 mil, like roughly 2.9 mil in week 1 of the USFL season, which just missed that XFL height number from 2020. My thing is you want to see if you can get that. And remember the XFL 2020, that was 1 game. And again, if we're on the same trajectory of hype and casual fan engagement, we can get the hardcore guys. I always say this now. We know hardcore fans are going to get in. Or as Seth Lessons has said to us, and we love saying it here, the crazies are in. They always are going to be coming in. It's the casual people that we want to see with the growth. And you know what? This feels like this is possibly having a chance to hit that 2020 mark of 3-3, up maybe 3-5. I'm of course speculating the numbers, but if you keep seeing the traction going, if you keep pushing out the promos, if you keep bringing up good stuff that's coming out, that's the target. I think they want to try and get back to that. Everyone does want to. I know the TV market's changed in 4 years, but I think if you can promote one game like that and get it on one network and hit that number and get that big headline on, like, say, like a Deadline or a Variety or an ESPN, TV or sports network type of thing showing the progress, that's big. So that's the mark, I think. 3 mil, if they can hit that, that's the benchmark right there for week 1.
I think you're absolutely right, Zach, and it goes back to the fact that the XFL 2.0 in 2020, like you said, it was the most hyped spring league we've seen to date. Obviously, the XFL 3.0 did some amazing things. The USFL did some fantastic things the last couple of years, but we never saw the TV, the massive numbers, like you said, the 3 mil, the 3.5 mil, and we saw a lot of those games in the XFL in 2020 with that Fox and ESPN synergy. They were really doing well. I mean, they were on pace to have some fantastic numbers, even down the stretch of the season. So hopefully they can get back to that. And who knows? I mean, I'm really excited for what can happen now that we have Fox and ESPN both back in the same league. I think they're the two biggest sports networks really in this country. So to have them back together again, I mean, it's great news.
Yeah, I know. I still have behind me. You can't see. Oh, you can. That little red bottle right there is a Fox XFL like water bottle from 2020, and it's like I keep saying, we're coming full circle. It's crazy, and like I said, I'm going to be talking about this a lot more this Thursday on the 6 Years of Newsroom live stream, 6 p.m. right here on this channel. So make sure you subscribe, click the bell, builds morale, let you know when we're going live. And it'll also let you know when episode 75 of the UFL, I don't know where that came from. The UFL podcast drops on Friday. Zachy boy, yes.
Yeah, I actually I know we're getting close on time, but I really want to bring this up because you brought the ELF up. And I think our good pal here, Luke Miller's been doing a great job covering the new Alabama Beavers of the IFA, which I find is essentially North America's ELF is what I'm looking at. And I really want to ask him before we go off the show, Luke, how you feeling, dude? How you looking with this league? There's some good people behind the scenes. I like following it. A lot of us in here do too. So I want to hear your thoughts on this because they made it known that they got to push off a year. I'm assuming they want to properly set up, and I think competition also plays into it this season with what we're talking about on this show, of course.
Yeah, I'm still kind of trying to gather intel on this league and kind of figure out exactly who's pulling the strings. I mean, they're on the football side of things. They've got some interesting people lined up. I think actually I just saw right when I was coming on the show that Noel Mazzone, who was the Breakers offensive coordinator in 2022, has just announced he's going to be the head coach of a team based in Portland, Oregon for this league. And so, I mean, as far as the coaches that they've got involved, some of the, kind of football operations type people, I mean, it's legit. The issue is, if you followed these leagues for any period of time, that it's not usually, that's not really ever the issue, right? You don't have a hard time finding good coaches. You don't have a hard time finding good players. The issue is always the money side of things, right? And so my understanding, what I was told, was that the league was set to start in 2024 with 6 teams, 3 in Mexico, 3 in America, but they pushed it back a year because they got more people, more investors that wanted to get on and have a team. And so they've got supposedly more people involved, more money in the pot. They're going to have 10 teams, one of them being the Alabama Beavers. We're still waiting on an exact city location. But I have spoken with the Beavers GM. I know he's hitting the streets hard, talking to free agents, lining up workouts with former Power 5 college players and other names that you might recognize. So it's definitely a league to watch. Obviously, if you've been in this space for any period of time, you have probably a healthy degree of skepticism about these kinds of things. And any players who are listening, who are maybe looking for an opportunity, obviously always do your due diligence, make sure you ask, the tough questions that need to be asked before you sign a contract, those kinds of things. Maybe don't always put all your eggs in one basket, but it's something to watch, right? And I think especially with this merger and with sort of the contraction of the XFL and USFL and the opportunities that those two leagues provided, I'm hoping and praying that this does work out because it gives guys another opportunity. Obviously, there's arena football, and that's a fantastic avenue. But if you want to play sort of traditional 11-man football, this could be sort of a third-tier league that, could emerge in the scene, sort of the football ecosystem in 2025. And it's definitely something we'll continue to keep an eye on over the next year or so as it they get closer to their planned launch date.
Let me ask you real quick too. The IFA, they have a team in Texas, or they're planning on it, right?
Yes, they
What
at
about
least
Ohio?
one, maybe multiple.
Wait, there's one in Dallas, is there not? Like
Dallas, yep. There's one in Dallas. I know that. There was, I think, supposed to be one in El Paso, but I don't know if that's still the case. They originally were going to have 3 in Texas and 3 in Mexico, and I think they kind of scrapped that plan. They're now supposed to have 10. Yeah, well, I guess it depends on who you ask. But basically what I've seen is that they're going to have 3 in Mexico, 1 in Dallas, 1 in Las Vegas. So actually the Las Vegas Kings, who were formerly an arena team, are actually going to be joining this league as a 11-man team.
I know where this is going then, because the Tampa Bay Tornadoes, who are now in this, were
Yes.
formerly an arena team. And that
Yep.
was rumored. I was looking into that the other day and got that confirmed. So that follows a pattern. I see what's going on here, Luke. I see it.
Yeah,
now.
so yeah, it's interesting. And then you've got a team in Louisiana, somewhere on the Gulf Coast, the Alabama Beavers, which we don't know the city yet, but somewhere in Alabama, and then a Portland, Oregon team. And then they have one team they said that it's yet to be announced. So I'm not sure where that one will be, but we'll see.
Make it Houston. Houston Swing is coming to the IFA. IFL? IFA.
IFA,
Signs up.
baby.
Luke, if they play it down, I'll be a Beavers fan.
Hey, now you're talking.
I think they'll be a damn good team.
Beaver Nation is already rising up, I will say. Beaver Nation is putting the other IFA fan bases on notice.
It's coming.
Well, we'll have to see. This Texas team, again, if the team's in Houston, we already know who the champion is going to be. And if the team's
nice
not in
thing
Houston, then we know that Dallas is going to win the championship. So either way, it's going to be good.
The nice thing is one of the teams is based in Cancun, so it's a good league to get in on the ground because you might be able to get a flight out to Cancun to cover one of the games,
I'm already planning on and Guadalajara and Chihuahua.
Yep.
Sign me up.
And whenever a team loses, if they're from Cancun, then they're just already there. So
No,
Yeah,
they go
exactly.
to Ohio.
I'm thinking bigger picture here. Let's go up North America. We'll bring some WLAF teams back. Montreal Machine, let's compete. Go right back in, get the maroon and silver back on the helmet to slap the M on there. I want them back real quick. Make this a big old North American party.
It would be amazing if they had teams spanning the entire North American continent, from Canada to USA to Mexico.
And they have a pretty impressive spread as it stands now. If you're going
Yeah.
from Portland all the way down to Tampa Bay and down into Mexico,
Yep.
it seems feasible that they would move into Canada next. And if they do, like if they kick this thing off, this is legit competition. There's still a couple things you need to button up. You need a broadcast deal,
Right.
but we'll have to see, because the name of the game with alternative football is let's see. Right, you get to that season 2, you're going to convince a lot of people to watch whatever it is that you're playing.
We don't want no MLFB around here. Let's stop
I
it.
chose a hat this week. It was last week.
well, hey, speaking of expansion, we might have to expand this show to around the UFL and IFA now.
Yeah.
With this last segment we had here.
I swear this will be regular. I just really wanted to bring it up because Luke's been on top of this. And not to mention, Randy Satterfield also was signed on as one of their first players. So does tie in. Just saying, there's opportunities of
Randy Satterfield, first USFL touchdown. So
yeah, he's going to have the first IFA touchdown too for the Alabama Beavers.
Watch it happen.
Wow, this is fun.
All about
This
the
is
Beaver,
exciting.
baby.
So, Mel's, I know you kind of froze up there a little bit. We'll go around the table. Kind of last thoughts, any well wishes? What do you got for us?
Well, I had to mute myself a couple times because Tiny Panther and his brother Quincy were getting into it back here. So
Getting into it, eh? Sign them up.
No, they're wrestling. They're just wrestling. So,
Innuendo deserves a beep.
That's what we call it.
No, I'm still really excited. I feel like, we still have some potential for some free agencies signings that are still out there. There's definitely still some guys that I'm very curious where their home will end up being, or if they will end up having a home. There's quite a few names out there. Like, I'm sure Ginda's in talks with people, but I would really very curious to how that plays out. But even some of those guys we talked about last week, like Matt Mangle, like he's still just kind of hanging out there. There's a lot of guys, and I'm just really curious, and I'm still looking forward to see how that all shakes out.
Well, hopefully next week, and hopefully we'll have a schedule to talk about next week. But it feels like
Yeah.
there's a couple things in the road that it might be preventing that from happening, the way that they want. But we'll get into that. This is why we have an episode every week. We have too much to talk, even when we have nothing to talk about. And again, no curtains, no notes on this show. You guys, I saw some worry in your faces before we started recording, but here we are, overtime. Still talking. James, final
TJ Barnes
thoughts.
carried, honestly.
Yeah,
But,
probably so. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I mean, hey, expect some more news this week. I mean, obviously teams are still going to be signing guys. I think it's really interesting the way that with the whole dispersal process, it allowed teams to leave a bunch of openings. Like Arlington still has like 13 openings on their side. So we'll see if anything comes of that. A name to keep an eye on is Terrence Williams. That's a guy who I don't know if anyone else has been following some of that drama, but basically he's, Dallas Cowboys receiver. He had a really great career with them for a few years. He's a guy that's trying to get into the UFL, and he had tweeted out something a couple weeks ago about trying to get in the league. And then we saw Des Bryant post a tweet like, "Hey, The Rock, can we get him in the league?" And Dwayne responded and said, "Hey, I'm going to talk to some people and see if we can make something happen." So we'll see. Terrence Williams, I mean, that would be a big name for the league, maybe in Arlington. Who knows?
Yep. I mean, that was kind of a crazy moment earlier, too, just seeing The Rock respond back and be like, let's see what we can do. I mean, you love to see it. Luke. Yeah. I mean, you had all the fun topics this week. I'm going to give you an extra point just for talking about you can't let go of Alabama. I mean, that is in your blood. So you're second to Tiny Panther, but final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts. I got to give a shout out to my guy, the MVP, Alex Magoo. It officially came out today that in the USFL 50 ranking, he was number 1. We all knew he was number 1, but it's official now. And he signed a futures contract with the Green Bay Packers, which hurt my heart a little bit because, there was a part of me that was really praying and hoping we might see him in the UFL in 2024 before he went back to the NFL. But good for him. He, signed a contract. He's going to be back in Green Bay, make that money, and continue to do what he does. So, Alex Magoo, if you're watching this, much love, brother.
See, it hurt my heart because he signed with the Packers, but I'll leave it at that. Zach, final thoughts.
As a Vikings fan, I agree. There's also some pain there, but I wasn't going to bring that up, but you did, so I will.
Wait, we're all NFC North fans on the show. How did that happen? Oh wait, no, Ducky, I forgot about you.
Hey.
Except for the duck.
Of course you would. Yeah, of course.
Just make a special episode. He can step aside for one.
Freaking NFC North.
I'm
not even an NFC fan.
Whatever.
But no Packers representation. We got Lions, Bears, and Vikings representation, but no Packers allowed.
I don't know if I brought it up.
If we had had that happen.
I don't know
Lions
if I brought
fans
it up.
were Packers fans this week.
Yes. Well, not me. I'd rather have an away game. I will never root for the Packers. And to that point, there's a reason. And I don't know, maybe I can get in trouble with the government for saying this. I discriminate. I ain't hiring no Packers fans. Good luck.
Lane
the second
is
I
literally
see
on our team.
We literally have Lane.
We have Lane.
Out.
Wow, Lane just got fired. Sorry, Lane. Sorry,
How
this is
did
how you
he
had to find
sneak
out.
in here? See, that's why he never shows his face, because there's probably like his back wall is full of like Packers gear. Oh, disgusting. I need to start deleting his posts now. I kid. No, Lane, you're cool with me. Zach, final thoughts.
Oh. Hard to wrap up after ripping into a Packers fan on live broadcast, but yeah, you know what? I mean, more signings to come. I actually did look over. Final thought with the Brahmas back when we were talking about the signings for free agents. They have 84 players on roster right now, and that is according to our own Thorne, who put up these beautiful UFL rosters available to the public, by the way. Now he posted that on X. You should grab that on a Google. It's a Google Sheet doc. Recommend you grab that for yourself if you want to keep up, because him, along with us helping him on PFN's Discord, are keeping that up to date as much as possible. But yeah, the Brahmas have 84, and I'm actually starting to now just kind of change my thoughts into saying I think a lot of these teams might see busts over 75, and then they'll reevaluate. Just go, we'll just give them we'll just sign them on, and then we'll reevaluate, and then we'll do the camp evals. Which is okay enough. But yeah, I said Memphis to start the show, but 84 out of 75, that's pretty big.
Yeah,
9 guys. figure out. Fun challenge for Wade Phillips and company.
Oh, sure. I know. Hoarding all the talent to himself. Ducky, you got to be feeling good. You had your defender on the show. Frenemy, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word. Final thoughts.
Two. One's a thought and then one's news. Thought is Cordell Jackson needs to be signed. That's the biggest thought. And then the second one is the schedule should be coming out.
Well, you know what? I think that's probably it. So on that note, you guys know what to do. Make sure you're following. Make sure you like the video because that helps. Susan Wojcicki, she's gonna wake up. What is this around the UFL? Put it on the trending page now. That's what she's gonna say. But you guys know the drill. We got a big week coming up. 6 years of Newsroom Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. The UFL podcast, episode 75, 9 a.m. Eastern on Friday. And then we'll be back here next week, Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern for episode 3 of Around the UFL. And as we saw this week, you never know who's going to show up. So until next time, guys, sign you up.